Hey there. When I'm out hiking and I've got my tent set up and somebody sees it, invariably I get asked, what is it? Do I like it? Does it keep me dry? The list goes on. I think on the gear list video, somebody even asked about how I like the protrail. So I thought I'd set it up, show you how it sets up, and then kind of do a little walkthrough of it so you can see what it looks like. So I found a little spot on a hike that I'm doing, and I'm going to go set it up for you. All right, that's pretty much it. Got it all set up. Here we go. So one of the nice things that I do like about this tent is these magnetic flies right here. Those are super convenient. There's one for the vestibule door, one for the bug net. There's also a cover down at the back that's got one on it as well. So it makes it super convenient. You don't have to worry about tying stuff and everything. Now, fair disclosure, I did buy one of the Blemish versions. This one does not set up perfectly as far as appearance goes. So right here, you can see that is not sewn on completely straight. So there's the center line, and it's offset a little bit. So that kind of affects the pitch. You can kind of see as it goes up, there's a little bit of curve to it. Doesn't affect the function of the tent. It's just, you can definitely see it after it's been set up. Okay, so there's the magnetic stay right there, and one is there. So that's on the outside, but it shows you where it is on the inside. So I have no problem sitting fully upright, and I've got plenty of headroom. I feel like the DCF version, which this is, has a little more headroom than the Sil nylon. I don't recall being able to sit or have quite as much headroom here. I think that had to do with the fact that the Sil nylon kind of droops in a little bit more there, whereas the DCF version stays a little more taut. Don't quote me on that though. Alright, you can see inside there's plenty of room for my sleeping bag, pad, and then all of my gear. At night, everything comes out of my backpack, and the vast majority of it goes inside. My water bottles stay out. My backpack typically stays out, and then of course my trowel. If it's raining and I really need to, I can pull the backpack in and set it down at the back on its side, and it'll stay dry on the inside. But I've got a DCF backpack, so that really doesn't, I haven't had to do that at all with this one. I did it quite a lot when I had my ULA circuit, because that thing would just get super heavy when it got soaking wet. So I would pull it inside on rainy nights to try to keep it dry. Another thing that I like about this tent, it only takes 4 tent stakes. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's it. The footprint of the tent, to set this thing up, you're going to need something that's basically 6 feet wide, and it needs to be 9 feet long, and that is from stake to stake. That's one of the only disadvantages of the tent. It's really narrow, but it has a really long footprint. So you can see there's a tent pad back there, and it is right at 9 feet long. So the back would have to be like all the way at the back, and I really didn't have much room in there to get out and maneuver my stakes if I had to pull them around. So I just decided to set up over here. Here are some shots of my tents as I talk a bit more. I really took my time setting up the tent in this video. If I hustle and don't mess around with the ground sheet, I can set it up just a fraction over 2 minutes. As I mentioned, I do have the sealed nylon version, and it worked great for me. Tarptent wasn't making DCF tents at the time that I bought that one. I did a write-up on the protrail, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below. I ended that write-up saying that a DCF protrail with a slightly higher bathtub floor might be just the tent I was ultimately looking for. They were listening. I haven't measured, but I feel like the DCF bathtub walls are just a little higher. On that note, I have set the protrail up in pouring rain on several occasions. The vestibule is large enough that I can squat under it in downpours and unpack the contents of my backpack into the tent to avoid soaking all my gear. I also no longer carry 2 trekking poles. For the DCF version here, I did purchase the rear pole that Tarptent sells. It's much lighter than a trekking pole. And I've also started using the Z-Pack's minimalist trekking pole. My scale says it weighs 5.19 ounces or 147 grams. That trekking pole is just ridiculously light. Another thing that I really like about the protrail is the Easton Nano tent stakes that it comes with. They are light and they hold well. I've tried a few other types of stakes just to experiment, but I always came back to the Easton Nanos. I've heard of people bending or breaking them, but I must say they must be trying to hammer them in a granite or something. I've never bent or broken one, and I've had to hammer mine in more times than I'd like to count. If you're hammering like you're driving a railroad spike, maybe rethink your strategy. I've used heavy rocks to anchor my tent when I couldn't get a stake in the ground. I've even used logs. Hiking, especially minimalist or ultralight hiking, means getting creative sometimes. And that's one of the things I like about it. And on that note, Tarptent says the protrail Lee weighs in at 17.75 ounces or 504 grams with all the bags, stakes, and cords. Mine weighs 18.2 ounces or 516 grams. You could shed a few grams by removing that front guy line, which I've rarely used. Well, I think that's about it for the protrail Lee. There are, of course, numerous other talking points, but I don't think we need a 30-minute video about a tent. As promised, I've left links in the description below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. Now get out there and do some hiking.